Hello everyone! A house with minimal wall area and at the same time with maximum living space. This is a round-shaped house. The only house with a slightly smaller wall surface area is a dome house, but a round house is almost free of all the disadvantages of a dome house. A round house can be built from completely ordinary and accessible building materials, using familiar construction methods, just like regular houses are built. Thanks to the coverage on YouTube of his super low-budget project, a house costing only $1,000 US dollars, which at the time this video was released, is already equal to 124,000 Russian rubles, 3,500 of our Belarusian rubles, and 30,000 Ukrainian hryvnias. So, thanks to this, I get a lot of advice and useful information from you. One day, someone wrote to me about a house with the minimum wall area and at the same time, the maximum possible interior space. I was surprised. What kind of building is that? It turned out that to achieve such efficiency, the house should simply be round in shape. And I decided to look into it more closely. And recently, I got really lucky. My new friend Konstantin from the channel Batina Usadba, the same one who showed off his simple to make, cheap, warm, strong and beautiful door made of foam in the last video. So it turned out that he has a friend named Alexander who has almost finished building a round house. And it also has an environmentally friendly, energy efficient design. 3-layer walls and a unique roof and rafter system, where he used beams of his own design that are 4 times cheaper than similar store-bought ones. So let me get straight to the interview, which took place thanks to Konstantin, where Alexander shared his remarkable experience. This is the last thing I managed to film during the calm days, shortly before the date that split the world into 2 realities, the second of which still feels like a very frightening dream to me. I wrote my thoughts about this in a post. It's in the community tab on the channel, so if anyone is interested, you can read it. Here, I want to continue working on strategically important tasks for the majority of humanity that creates rather than destroys, namely, to develop and highlight affordable construction methods. And now, let's remember those carefree sunny days together. What was especially surprising was that, although the house looked compact from the outside, it turned out to be very spacious inside.
How did the idea to build such an unusual house come about?
It's just a house, only the shape is different, that's all. The thing is, this topic has been discussed for a long time. My friend and I used to talk about it when we were visiting construction sites. We talked about how cool it would be to visit a round house, and well, this idea slowly developed over time. And then, when we got the land, I remembered, why not build a round house? There was no rush, we already had a place to live, so this was an option.
So what's the advantage? Is it more energy efficient, for example, because of the wall area?
Well, I didn't have any experience living in a round house, but if you take, how should I put it, the experience of people who have already built and lived in a round house, according to them, they only see advantages in it. Well, in other words, to really feel it, you need to build it and live in it, like with everything. In this life, if you don't experience it yourself, you won't know. The thing is, someone else's experience might not apply to you personally. That is, you have a different living area, different conditions, a different climate, a different location. Everything can be different. That is, building the same house here and let's say somewhere south, a few thousand or even a few hundred kilometers away, can be very different. And these will be completely different indicators, so you have to start from that.
Sasha, basically, did you just want to stand out somehow among the square and rectangular houses, or did you, well, you know, you can just make up any story and say that you once dreamed of a round house because people live in yurts and they're round too, or something like that.
But in reality, maybe you just wanted to stand out, purely and simply.
No, I didn't have that goal to stand out. I mean, among, as it turns out now, among the mediocrity, the ordinary, to stand out. Actually, it's a challenge to myself. So, I mean, I want to, and I will do it, but very few people, you could say, very few people admit to themselves that they can, want to, and will do it. Absolutely, because very few people, as they say, will get off their couch and go do something. It's better to go with a standard option, do everything quickly and cheaply, and not worry about it. So actually, there are a lot of hassles with this house, and you have to push yourself almost every day. Because with a standard option, you just go ahead and do it, but with a non-standard one, you have to think. And thinking a lot, well, some people just don't want to think that much. Some people just want to sit and watch television.
But it's probably more expensive to build a round house, isn't it?
But how is it more expensive? I'm not buying pieces of a space shuttle and not making a roof out of them.
The same roofing, the same building materials, the same bricks, the same blocks, wood, everything is here, and there are no super composites or anything like that.
What do you mean? More expensive? There? Well, yes. Maybe there will be a bit more leftover scraps from the roof, because all the boards are cut at an angle.
Well, yes, maybe there are some other pieces left over from the roofing somewhere, but for example, nothing is left over from the walls.
All the walls are exactly the same, just like in a regular house. Nothing is more expensive. It all depends only on the area and size of the house.
Originally, you wanted to build with cordwood masonry, as far as I remember.
Yes, originally. This isn't firewood.
So how did we, Alexander, switch from cordwood masonry to blocks?
It all depends on time, because the cordwood masonry method is actually very time consuming. When we went to see Zhenya Rajewski together, they told us that building it takes a long time for 2 people, and even longer for 1.
And since I'm pressed for time with the construction, I decided that I won't build the whole house with cordwood masonry, because the interior walls will still be built with cordwood masonry.
And I made the entire exterior frame out of blocks, because it's fast. I just put the blocks with foam adhesive. It's very quick to do all this by myself.
Alexander, could you please tell me, what is this post here?
What is this post in the middle of the house? Well, it was originally a load-bearing structural element. So when I was building the roof, instead of making what's it called, a reciprocal roof, there's this option where the posts support each other from above. Any roof of this type, where the members form a ring, is self-supporting. So, to avoid making a reciprocal roof, and when you line it along the rafters, the roof inside the house ends up looking like a cone. I was aiming for a more standard option, so that the ceiling would be flat. And I came up with the idea to put a support inside and then tie all the trusses I have to that support. That is, all the trusses, rafters, and it will serve as both a load-bearing element and a decorative element, because partitions will also connect to this post, and it will remain as a decoration inside the house. So basically, if you cut it off and remove it now, the roof won't go anywhere, it will keep standing because it's locked in place. I mean, from a physics standpoint,
The roof will press down, the top part will rest against something, and the edges will spread out to the sides.
but since it's all connected, it can't go down or move anywhere because it's a single monolithic frame that's tied together as one whole. Basically, this column here is just for decoration right now, and at the same time it supports the roof, so it's a double benefit.
You say that this idea, was this used somewhere before? For example, the idea to do it this way. Did you originally have a different roof in mind, but then decide to do it this way? And what about the calculations? The calculations?
Well, as far as I've looked into materials about round houses, like how tents are made, yurts are made, round houses that were built before me, this isn't a new invention. It's not the first house in human history. This method is used specifically for installing the roof. I mean, for installing the initial structures, because a single pole can't just hang in the air. It needs support. And this acts as a support. The support is put in place, then it's removed, and the roof locks into position and stands on its own. Well, I just didn't remove it, that's all. I mean, you could have just propped it up with a thin beam or a rafter, tied it all together. and then taken it away. But since I love wood, you can see it in the interior elements as well, so I'll just leave it as part of the interior, finish it nicely, and it'll be a beautiful feature.
But how did you plan to insulate a round house made of blocks? Covering it with mineral wool in pieces like that isn't very effective.
Foam board, it's square too, by the way.
Yes, square, yes. So yeah, rectangular houses and modern construction, they're all designed for modern building materials, meaning they don't bend or fit with non-standard shapes, so you end up with a lot of cutoffs and waste.
There's roll insulation, I'll tell you. You could have wrapped the whole house with it.
Wrap the house, fasten it with tape and a stapler.
And secure it with wire.
That's a good idea. No, actually, I'm not going to insulate the blocks from the outside. According to the plan, I have 3-layer walls, meaning there was supposed to be cordwood on the outside, as I already mentioned, but right now it's just foam blocks. Inside there will be 20 centimeters of insulation, and then the interior will be finished with cordwood. As insulation, sawdust mixed with lime and gypsum will simply be poured between the walls, and everything will work out. On the outside there's just a wall, then the insulation, and then the inner wall. That means everything will depend on the thermal conductivity properties of the insulation itself. In other words, the house won't be insulated from the outside at all.
Aren't you afraid that someone will definitely say this to you, that there will be a dew point?
There, for sure.
Right in the sawdust. Yes. You're standing on sawdust right now.
If you're going to insulate the house, it's definitely better to do it in the summer, because if you, say, pour them into the attic, they dry out before winter. That's it. Even in winter, they keep drying out a little, even in winter. So, they're already dry on top. So, there's such a thing as evaporation, and there's also such a thing as moisture being drawn out by freezing. And the sawdust dries out, becomes dry, and its thermal conductivity increases. That is, it no longer lets heat through. That's all.
Alexander, right now there's a very relevant topic all over the world. Mice are everywhere. Mice in the sawdust. How scary is that? What if they start scratching behind the walls?
They won't be scratching behind the walls. I don't even know how mice would get into the sawdust. They only live on top of the sawdust. That is, they can't live inside because sawdust is a loose material. And the mouse can't make a burrow there. If it digs one, it just collapses. That's the first option. The second, mice also need to somehow get into the walls. So basically I'll have open walls on top. Logically they can climb down from above, right? But again, they face the same situation here. Sawdust is a loose material. Mice can't make nests in sawdust. And the third option, lime is added to the sawdust. Lime is added to prevent dampness, fungus, and mold. Living organisms don't like lime because it's an active chemical element. And it causes irritation in the mucous membranes of the eyes and throat. And when mice scurry around in the sawdust trying to dig burrows, they raise dust, and all that dust gets into their lungs, and they leave because they don't like it. Well, just like people. That's it, that problem is solved. Very simple and cheap.
Alexander, do you use foam insulation in your build?
No, I didn't even plan to use it from the beginning because the house was intended to be environmentally friendly. That is, I'm against using chemical building materials here, like laminate, plastic, linoleum, and all those kinds of things.
Expanding foam.
Specifically chemical building materials. As for expanding foam, I'll say this, it's used in small amounts. That is, we don't make walls out of it, we don't make floors or ceilings out of it. And as a rule, it's usually covered by various technical elements, that is, by moldings, plaster, and so on. That is, it doesn't come into direct contact with people. Just like everything else. That is, for example, if you use foam insulation on the outside, it also basically doesn't come into contact with people. And well, inside the house, things like laminate, linoleum, or those same PVC panels, they do come into contact with people. And the house was planned in such a way as to minimize this contact and not use such materials. Well,
like chemical floor screed, for example, or floor insulation. So we also manage without polystyrene foam or extruded foam.
yes, I made an experimental floor screed. So this is, how should I say, my personal experience. Because before me, such a screed was made, not exactly the same, but something similar, though only in utility rooms. Someone did it somewhere in a sauna, someone else did it in a workshop. I decided to use it at home. So I took wood chips, made a homemade wood concrete mix from them, and made a screed about 15 to 20 centimeters thick. That is, without using any foam insulation. Well, actually, it's kind of an experiment. I'll see for myself and test how it all works. In theory, wood concrete walls stand and blocks are made from it. The same goes for the screed. It should work too. The point of the insulation under the floor is to keep the heat from escaping down into the ground. That's all.
Sasha, look, these I-beams here, you made them differently than most people do, right?
Yes. Are they still standing?
I see. They're called I-beams, but that's not entirely accurate because a real I-beam has a slightly different design. This beam is made, you could say, modeled on the box-type beams used in Soviet times. There are box-type beams like this, but this one is closer to an I-beam design. So honestly, I don't know what to call it exactly. That's why I just call it an I-beam. If you look at the cross-section, it looks a lot like an I-beam, but the construction itself is nothing like it. Because in an I-beam, the load-bearing elements are the bottom bar, the top bar, and in the center, the strip in the middle that serves as a stiffener. I went with the box beam construction system, but instead of making a box beam, I ended up with this kind of I-beam. It proved to be very effective, so why not use it? I tried to make these beams as cheap as possible so they would be less expensive. Because store-bought I-beams are simply 3 or 4 times more expensive compared to these. Well, if you were to buy them, and there's nowhere for us to buy them here. And I developed it like a kit, so you can assemble them. You can make them any length, any width, and any kind of frame, triangles, beams, trusses, whatever your imagination comes up with. But people write to me saying that this is the wrong way to make I-beams. But I wasn't trying to make an I-beam. If I wanted to make an I-beam, I would have used the standard method. But I was aiming to make it cheaper. And that's why there are arguments now that my I-beams are not made correctly. But in fact, these are not I-beams, but rather an element of a modular system that you can assemble however you want for your needs. That is, some people have a low-pitched roof, some have a steep one, and some have a multi-pitched roof. And with this kind of construction set, you can make any kind of roof you want, and it will be fine and inexpensive.
Alexander, tell us about the design of the Rafter system.
Well, I designed the entire Rafter system from scratch myself because, well, there was nowhere to look it up. Because I just couldn't find houses with a roof like this. I haven't seen any. There was simply nowhere to get the information. I approached the local guys here who work with roofs, and to put it mildly, I was turned away because they said, well, yeah. Bro, we've never seen a roof like that. We don't know. So that's why I did the whole Rafter system myself, using a computer, drawing and sketching things, figuring things out, and then I built the Rafter system myself. So in my case, it's made up of these kinds of trusses. The main elements are the trusses, the triangles that were placed in a circle. And then the rafters, the battens, and everything else were attached to these trusses in this way. Here they rest on a post. You can see that there's a center post standing there, and there's a welded metal frame that's put onto the post, and all the trusses are inserted around it in a circle. And that's it, they stand in place. When everything was assembled and closed up, I pulled them together with cables toward the center, fixed everything in place, and that's it. I started covering the roof.
The current view.
Ceiling insulation? It'll be just pure sawdust.
Yes, so it's just pure sawdust mixed with lime. Well, lime is added so there won't be any parasites, mold, bugs, nothing. So basically I have a 20 centimeter beam for the ceiling with boards attached underneath and spun bond fabric. So it's not film, not vapor barrier, but specifically a material, it's black, you can see it, that lets air and vapor through, and it keeps the sawdust off your head. It doesn't fall down, it just levels out along the beams. That's it. All the insulation, 20 centimeters of insulation is more than enough. More than enough for our harsh winters, so to speak. It's plenty. It's warm in the house. Vapor escapes into the atmosphere, so the humidity in the house doesn't rise, as they say. The house breathes. So this is exactly about sawdust and about the material that doesn't retain moisture in the house.
I would really appreciate financial support for my channel, especially from those who believe that global sanctions won't affect them. Unfortunately, I already felt them from the very first days of the so-called special operation. I lost 80% of my already modest income because YouTube ads are no longer shown to viewers from Russia. The link where you can support is under the video. Give a big thumbs up, be sure to subscribe to my channel Yasha Kosiak Songs, and definitely subscribe to Alexander's channel called Electropeak. The link is under the video. Since the situation is getting more complicated very quickly, so we don't lose touch with each other, download and install a VPN. I'm also leaving links to my Yandex.Zin and my TikTok, all under the video as well. I believe that we, people of goodwill, need to stick together.
Thank you, but isn't there a risk that along with the sawdust you might bring in machine parts or mouse eggs?
Yes, there is such a risk. Yes.
The topic has been fully covered. Also, I still need to ask about the inflatable woman later.
About Kuritsina the woman.
So, unpoetically speaking, an inflatable woman, just imagine using a Kuritsina woman.
You're always talking about your own stuff, right? About your own problems and what's bothering you.
Alexander!
Listen,
Alexander, this city, this is her.
there she is in the song, so...
It's not normal, it's important.
This city is ours. What, did you join them? The pink ones or what? Yeah?
Speak one at a time.
The specialists are used to seeing them there as regular, well, I-beams are all just bothered by it, saying it's all wrong and it shouldn't be like that.
They should be bothered. After all, you made box girders.
Yeah. I mean, I was trying to make it all cheaper. Just make it as cheap as possible.
Alright, let me talk about making things cheaper first.
Are you even interested in this at all?
It's really interesting. Awesome.
Yeah, when you see something unusual like that, for me, that's all it takes.
Alright, great. Listen, do you have anything like that on your channel?
All of that in detail, yeah. But still, I didn't understand a damn thing about how you did it.
You need to see it. They'll expose me because of you.